Crazy.
Yeah. We're just setting up here, Jim.
Hi, Jan. I take it you're Jan.
Yeah, my name's Jen. Nice to meet you, Jim.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, this is so much better than those questions you're going to ask me on paper.
Yeah. Well, we do have the papers over here.
That's fine. I rather do. I tell you what, I've done 8 Skypes this week.
Oh my God.
I've done 2 documentaries. It's crazy. And you know what? It's not. I thought you might think that I was trying to blow you off, or
no.
I was interested in your group earlier because it was different. Okay, it wasn't that woo stuff. From the most sites have. You were actually doing, I think, genuine research. And I says, you know what? I don't know how big they are, but you know what? They deserve it. I'm going to give them an interview.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Jim.
It's very nice.
Yeah, we are very excited to have you on this interview.
Thanks. And I'll tell you what, I used to live in the Benelux area by Trier, and we used to be in Belgium all the time. Lakes and stuff, and a few beers and stuff like that. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. Used to go there on the weekends all the time. And also, where are you at in Belgium?
We are near to Aalst, the city Aalst.
Right.
We're actually in Erembodegem.
Yeah, which is between Brussels and Ghent.
Oh, okay. I know where that's at. I've probably been over the road.
You're in Chicago now, Jim.
No, I'm about 90 miles west of Chicago.
90 miles. Is that which state is that?
Well, it's right on the state line. It's really close to Wisconsin. Okay, I'm in Illinois, but it's close. I mean, the area around here actually looks like Belgium. I mean, the area, yeah.
Right.
It's got a lot of woods, trees, some hills, and
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, I suggest, Jim, that we get started.
Yeah. Jim, okay. I will get off the screen right now because
am I fine here? Or, you want me closer?
Technical guy, so I'm going to monitor if everything is going well. I wish the both of you a pleasant time. Enjoy and.
Good time. Don't worry about that.
Okay, so see you, Jim, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, this is great. This is absolutely awesome, Jim.
Awesome. It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun, yeah. All the way to Belgium, all the way to America. The Skype here is terrific. You have seen the message that I received your book.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I'm not. I didn't check it yet for the moment, and it's a whopper.
It's a whopper.
It's a whopper, and it's part 1. So I'm very excited what this will turn out to be, the series.
Right.
So if
the second book will be on strictly the code, our theories, working theories, and all this other stuff, and how we obtain it. Plus, we're going to be going to different sites with the coordinate sites. And that will add to the second book. It's just too much information to put in. You can see, we already had 700 pages. Yeah. I mean, there's no way we could make that any bigger. And we had to compromise and make it a big paperback because it would have been too costly to do the hardback. You know what I mean? Hardcover. So that's what we end up doing. I don't know what a hardcover would cost. I don't know. That would have been, unattainable, and I wanted people to read it,
Yeah. So, just for the technical side, do you hear me properly? Can you understand everything?
Yeah, I was so concerned. I was concerned if you're the 50% that spoke English in Belgium, or was it going to be sort of with a French accent? I wasn't sure.
Well, we are quite accustomed to the American way. Of course, we do have a lot of interviews with British people also, but most of the time our accent leans more to the American than the English. So,
I agree.
So this will be great. So I have a few questions, Jim, prepared. You have already received them.
I haven't read them.
Okay.
You know what? I didn't want to do that. I wanted everything to be fresh,
Yeah.
and I don't want to have. I don't need thought out answers. I either know it or I don't know it. There's not a lot, to it.
Well, I think it's going to be. I will use the questions like to not to get stuck in the interview, but we can do other things as well. We can talk about other stuff in between. So
Sure,
it's like
sure.
we do whatever we want. But of course, I'm very interested in your United States Air Force period and the
Okay.
material that you guys know of. One of the questions that I have is, what does the first responder really means? It's like a term in the military, in the Air Force, the first responder. And if I'm not mistaken, you were a first responder.
Right. That is actually a term that we use during peacetime for a response to an emergency situation. It'd be the critical elements to render response. That would be like fire department. That would be by security police. I mean, those are the first ones on the scene. Just like myself, with the premise of it was an aircraft crash. I actually established with Airman Kambanzak, who was with me, I established an entry control point. I said, this is the entry control point. I called in the grid coordinates, and that was for the additional first responders that would be coming, like fire department, crash recovery, mortuary affairs, that's usually it. But those are the type of things that we would funnel that from that one area. And yeah, so that's part of the first response.
Yeah. Okay. That clears something out. Yeah. And can you give us insight in what your military rank and function was in the USAF security forces during the remarkable events at Rendlesham?
Oh, during the time at Rendlesham, okay. I had arrived at RAF Bentwater. So I'll give you a little background on the two bases.
Yeah,
it's not really two bases, okay? There are separated bases, but RAF Bentwaters is actually the main operating base. It has the control centers, it has the command element, and then on Woodbridge, which was still ours, we had a couple squadrons of A-10s, and the fire department was there, and a few other support activities. We had the 67th Air Recovery helicopters. There were 57s, I believe they were, and so it wasn't the primary base. My rank at that time was Staff Sergeant. The military, U.S. Air Force don't have a lot of rank in there. Usually our officers fly. That's usually what they do. So a lot of us delegated down to enlisted. As a staff sergeant, I was the flight sergeant for RAF Woodbridge that night. My flight sergeant, who I worked for, was over on RAF Bentwaters. He was Sergeant Chandler. But whatever happened security-wise was my responsibility at Woodbridge. And law enforcement was there too, but they didn't necessarily work for me. They did like gate guard duty and stuff like that. Yeah. But during the incident, since once I arrived on scene, it was now a security issue. And when it became a security issue, I was in charge. And the law enforcement people fell under my command and control. If that helps out a little bit on the command relationships.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And so the Woodbridge and the Bentwaters, there's actually one base. That's what you're telling.
Well, they're one base. They're separated by 3 miles of forest. I mean, as a crow flies. But no, they were all on the 81st Tactical Fighter Wing, which is the command elements, all located at Bentwaters. But yeah, I tell you what, besides that base there, the little background, we were also responsible for 4 forward operating locations in Germany, which was like, I don't know if I can remember them all, Elhorn and Leipheim and Hohn and Jever. Oh God, I can't even believe I remember those. And Then we had two C3 facilities, which were Rendlesham Heath, and at the time it was a top secret place. Now it's declassified. What it was is a common nodal point where the listening posts on the Warsaw Pack area that we had listening posts, all that communication would be funneled through Rendlesham Heath. So it was pretty critical. That facility was only located about 4 miles from Bentwaters itself. Okay, maybe that's too much information for you, but
well, we love that. And the C3 basis, what does the C3 mean?
The C3 means communication. That's all it means. Communications.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Rendlesham Heath, then we had Bromley, which is like 9 miles away. It was a repeating system. We had another classified, that's still classified location. Isn't that funny how that works with a classified? We have one that's still classified. I checked and I said, they're all unclassified. I said, no, one is not. And so I had to sit there and go through them. And I said, well, this unclassified? And they go, yeah. I said, okay. Yeah. I usually, I tell you what, I'm in communication with all the guys I worked with there, on a routinely basis. Colonel Halt and I talk a lot, or even emails. It's sometimes monthly, weekly, whatever. Yeah. Communication with the wing commander. He's now deceased, by the way. Colonel Williams, General Williams, he passed away November of last year. But he was one of the contributors on our book, and he helped us write that. That's important for you to know. The contributors on our book is Major General Williams, the wing commander at the time, Colonel Conrad, the base commander at the time, Colonel Halt, who was the deputy base commander.
Charles.
Charles Halt. And then Staff Sergeant Nevels, who is the disaster preparedness NCO that was out there on Halt's night. And I'm leaving somebody out. Who am I leaving out? I'm leaving a couple people
Don't
out.
do that. Don't leave anybody out.
Oh, Lord. I didn't want to do that. And Colonel Highbush, a name you never heard. Unlike some of the witnesses that were involved on the first night, they said the Air Force left us high and dry. As you will read in that book, the Air Force did not leave us high and dry. They gave me a lifeline, and the lifeline was Colonel Highbush, who was replaced Major Zickler, who was the squadron commander for the security police. He left about 6 months, Major Zickler, 6 months, 7 months after the Rendlesham Forest incident. Yeah. Went back to States assignment, and that major was replaced with a lieutenant colonel from the Pentagon. And I'll give you a little incident about that. It's in the book, though. Colonel Highbush arrived, and 2 days later, I was working security police plans and programs. I was in the NCOIC, non-commissioned officer in charge of it. I got promoted right after the incident. They put me in a critical position in plans and programs. And anyway,
it was after the incident in 1980. They promoted you.
Yeah, I got the NCOIC position at the plans and programs. It's in the book, and it's really in detail on how it happened. I wasn't qualified for the job, but they trained me. They trained me, and they
trained you.
Yeah. So, they said that. Well, one thing is I had a top secret clearance. That helps too. But anyway, part about Colonel Highbush is good. They call me down in the office 2 days after he gets there. I'm thinking he wants a briefing on the current our current plans, our contingency plans, for the base. We wrote all those, and so I grabbed those. They're all classified. I grabbed them. I go down to his office. I go on in there, and he goes and shuts the door, and he tells the lieutenant to bring in 2 cups of coffee, and he says, "No, you don't have to report. Just put that stuff down." He says, I'm Chuck Highbush. He says, I was sent out from the Pentagon to be here for you if you need to talk to somebody about Rendlesham. And I said, what? And he goes, yeah. And I'll tell you what, through the book I described, he is always there. He later became the Chief Security Police Officer for Europe, U.S. Forces Europe, and I seen him routinely. I mean, all throughout the rest of my career. So there is some things that, like I said, the 85% of this Rendlesham Enigma book has never been put in public before.
Yeah, which is great.
Oh, yeah. Some of the things I just wasn't comfortable with. The other thing is, it took research. I kept daily journals, in the Air Force for the whole 21 years. I kept journals, mainly for, what CYA is, don't you? Do you know what that is?
The what? CYA?
Yeah, we
CIA, you mean?
Yeah, we call it Cover Your something.
Cover Your something. Okay. Yeah.
That's why I kept journals, okay?
Is that a straight military line also, a procedure? Cover Your...
So I kept journals. And so when we wrote this book, my co-author and I had the journals. And I was stationed at Bentwaters from 1980 to 84. So I had a lot of information there too. And I said, I'm going to put all that public, everything that's happened and some of the meetings and some of the situations. And also how the cover-up happened. That has never been put out before. We tell exactly how it happened.
Can you tell us something about the cover-up?
Well, the cover-up was, it started at the AFOSI building, the Air Force Office of Special Investigation. They had nothing to do with it, but they had people there from London, our people, NSA type people.
Yeah.
And
National Security.
Yeah, National Security Agency. And anyway, they were there, and I told them, I wrote a 4-page statement out explaining everything I see. I mean, they told me if I write everything down, it goes away. And I said, that sounds good. And I did. And then they took it away, and I was going to type it up. 15 minutes later, I'm still waiting. And they come back, and this 4-page legal paper that I had, the legal yellow paper, I don't know if you know what those are, it was all handwritten in that. But they come back with a bond paper, white paper, and there's only that much single space type. I'm going, there's no way they got all that inside that paper. And they said, we want you to read this, and we want you to memorize it. And from this point on, this is what you tell if anybody asks about the incident.
So it was controlled from that moment on.
Controlled from that moment on. And of course, it was general. It said, within 50 meters. And I don't use meters, by the way. I use feet and yards. I mean, they didn't have a lot of stuff right. It said within 50 meters, a mechanical craft. You could tell it was written by British, too, because they spelled color like British would spell color. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's different.
It's different than American. And so I read it, and it says, you got this. Is this an active this is an active investigation right now? And so it's classified. He says, yeah, but I'm going to go see, after here, I got to go see the base commander and the wing commander. What am I going to tell him? He says, you're going to tell him what's in that paper. That's it. That's all you tell him.
That's it.
I said, they said, it's an active investigation. It's an order. I go, yes, sir. That's it. So I go up there, and I tell them what's in there. Pretty general speaking. It was awful generalized. And it was okay for me at the time, too, because I wanted it to go away. But the interesting part about that is about a few years ago, I felt so guilty about I'm technically lying to the wing commander and the base commander about this, because they said I'm under orders. And the OSI people, the NSA, they don't work for anybody on the base. They can give those kind of orders during an investigation. And so anyway, I contact General Williams, retired. He lived in Tucson, Arizona. And I says, General, I says, I want to talk to you. I said, I want to apologize to you about, lying about this. And I said, but they said I was under orders and all that. And his response was, Jim, it's okay. He says, we all follow orders. He said, don't worry about that.
Just like that.
So he doesn't feel guilty. And he just goes, don't worry about it. He says, I follow orders, you follow orders. That's the way it went. He says, don't worry about it. I know, what a guy. He was a super guy. He really was.
So the emotional part on your side, they just, it doesn't count.
No, I guess.
No.
No, he just wanted it. He just says that's what we do. We follow orders. You're under orders. That's what happens. But one of the things that you should ask, because everything was made top secret back then, right after, like within 72 hours after the incident. So the good question for you to ask me is, well, how can you talk about something that's top secret?
Yeah.
I can't talk about anything that's top secret. I'll tell you what happened when I retired in 1993 from the Air Force. I'm down in the personnel office, and what they give you is a non-disclosure statement, okay?
Yeah.
Agreement. And they have stuff like nuclear weapons and contingency plans and all kinds of top secret stuff. And you're supposed to, and Colonel Hall had got a hold of me a year earlier because he had retired. He said, ask him about RAF Bentwaters and RAF Boardbridge and see if it's still classified. I said, okay. So I asked the personnel people about it. They said, well, we'll send a message off to Headquarters Air Force at the Pentagon, and we'll find out. So I'm trying to retire from the Air Force, and so I go on home. I wait there 2 days. And finally, I get a call from the personnel office. Yes, we're ready to do the rest of the process. And I says, great. So I get down there, talk to the personnel sergeant. I said, well, what do they say about Bentwaters? He says, it's the strangest answer I've ever seen. I said, like, what did they say? He says, well, he read it to me. He says, nothing classified at those bases happened on that date in question, so therefore nothing is classified.
Oh, God.
So here's what I said. I said, Sarge, can I have a copy of that? And he goes, yeah. So in the Air Force's wisdom of not acknowledging that it was classified, they actually gave me free rein to talk about it, and they gave Colonel Halt free rein to talk about it.
Do you think that is a strategic point from them? Is that something they wanted you to do?
I don't know. I think they were in a conundrum. I really do. I think they didn't know what to do. If they said it was classified or admitting to the incident happening, you know what I mean? If they say nothing classified, well, they're doing the same thing. I think they were in just in a precarious situation. And the other thing is, not all of the Air Force works as one unit. I mean, it's very compartmentalized. I mean, so stuff could fall through the track, with them a little bit. So anyway, here I am, and I can talk about it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Of course, I have a whole bunch of questions for you, Jim. So
I'm sorry, you have to shut me up.
No, that's great because there's a lot of information coming through. So please keep talking, Jim. No problem. But let me take a look at the questions over here. Like this is an interesting one. Is it true that the USAF had secretly stocked nuclear warheads at Bentwaters at that time? And did the British government, in your opinion, or its military had knowledge about that fact?
You will find the answer to that inside the Rendlesham Enigma.
All right. Yeah. It's a tough one.
But it's answered in there.
Okay, then we'll check that up. Okay.
And I'm not trying to be cryptic with you or nothing like that. It's just that it explains the whole situation much better than I can do right now.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay.
But it's something that I think is important.
There's a connection, I think, if you're going this route. Is there a connection with nuclear weapons, nuclear material, and its phenomena? I think so. Just north of the bases, the twin bases, we had maybe 30 miles away, I'm not certain, pretty close, 25 miles, was Sizewell, a huge nuclear power plant. I mean, the area was a pretty active area with nuclear power and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Another question that I'm dying to ask you, Jim, is how does the USAF call these craft of unknown origin? How do they define it if they are visiting?
I called it that. because I was not going to use the word UFO in a report.
Okay.
I says, if I used the word UFO, that would have been a career ender. Okay.
Oh, really?
So,
Yes.
yes. Because we didn't report that kind of stuff. You're not supposed to. And technically, I mean, even though it was on the ground, UFO has a connotation of, well, extraterrestrial and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to use that term. So I stuck to the facts, and I says, well, it was a craft, but I don't know where it came from. So I came up with unknown origin.
The unknown origin. And the USAF, do they have, like, the astronauts have a term, a bogey, if they see something? They report to Houston.
Bogies are usually, that means that usually they don't have a transponder on them, like a commercial aircraft would. Military aircraft don't have them. And so a bogey is probably a military aircraft. That's usually when they're talking about that on a radar swipe or something like that, they see a bogey. That means it doesn't have a responder, but it still is has a radar signature. Did I clarify that for you on that?
Well, I just want to know if the Air Force, the American Air Force, do they have a special name for the unknown aircraft? Do they use a name on paper, or do they just say it's a UFO or it's a UAP or something, or an actual vehicle?
No, I'll tell you what. I have never seen them use the word UFO ever.
I thought so.
Even like with pilots I knew, they would say there's an unidentified aircraft or something like that on the screen, or they would not ever use it as because of the connotation of UFO.
Yeah.
It just sent the wrong message altogether. I mean, that developed over the years. I think Blue Book was part of the problem with that. But yeah, now the British, they came up with that term, and everybody's using this UAPs, but it's more accurate, unidentified aerial phenomena of some kind. Yeah, but eventually that will be hooked up with the UFO type term eventually too.
It's like they are evolving in their terminology as we progress in the ufology, the world of ufology, and there is more investigation going on. It's like they're using different terms to control it. That's what I think.
You're right.
Yeah.
No, you're correct. I agree with you. The newest thing that came up, because they have all these military guys running their mouths lately, Navy in particular. I mean, they're idiots. I can't believe they're running their mouths like that. They are so they implemented new reporting procedures for them on how to do that. But that's because they got control now. The Navy did it, and the Air Force adopted the same ones. At least that's what I heard. And so that's a way of controlling it too. I mean, you can't have military personnel running around saying they see a UFO or a UAP. The fact of the matter is, it's 99.9% of the time, it's going to be a experimental aircraft, Soviet or Russian or Chinese or something like that. Yeah. They just don't have a need to know. Like, for example, those people that were in the Navy with the ship sightings, they didn't know what they're looking at. I mean, were the guys telling the truth? Yeah, they didn't know what they're looking at, but they're telling what they've seen. But some of the things that came out of that is since it was a Navy testing area, I have a source that told me that the Skunk Works have a new classified weapon system that's unmanned. It's a drone.
Oh, it's unmanned.
And that they think could very well have been what they were testing over that test area, which is where all the Navy ships were. And it's got, he says, incredible speed and able to turn at extreme Gs and stuff like that. Yeah. That's my source says that. So I think it's just that we have a lot of misinformation coming on. I think there's a false flag being done right now. I think it was created with ATIP. I think that's the false flag. I mean, okay, say there is a ATIP, they were developed for as an intelligence gathering with the Chinese and the Russians and Koreans and who are all the other bad actors in the world to watch them. I think the information that's going out from them is a false flag. And from my experience, I've seen with the UFO, UAP phenomena, I see that every 10 years, 15 years, they come up with something like that. Like Blue Book was one of them, that's all unclassified. I mean, but all those cases that are public are explainable as stuff, Yeah. They don't have anything that says, well, we don't know what that was. They don't have those. They have no idea. They never put those out. But they put the other things out. The other thing is like, take the Air Force and the Roswell fiasco. For some reason, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, the Air Force decides to have a press conference and say they can explain Roswell. Instead, it was dummies flying, being thrown out of a plane.
Project Mogul.
Yeah, and then they had to go and backtrack everything because it wasn't true. And I have no idea why the military does things like that. They just, they're trying to do damage control and they make it worse.
Well, Jim, I've been studying the UFO files for 20 years now. And one thing that always comes back is military or Air Force with nuclear weapons, that they attract extraterrestrial vehicles. And some files are really extensive on the matter, that it bothers them really.
It does seem like that's from the cases that I have talked to people with other prior military and that. Even that's not a phenomenon just in the States. When I did the National Press Club in 2007, and James Fox filmed it. It was I Know What I Saw. That's what it was. He did that. We were at the press club, and it was made up of 14 people. I mean, and these were all experiencers or from people that have seen these phenomena. All military, mostly. From Chile or Peru, France, Belgium. Matter of fact, General DeBrouwer and I tried to have lunch every day while we were shooting. He's a great guy, by the way. Oh. Yeah, he is. He's really a fantastic guy. I like him. But the nice thing is, we had all those people there with unable to explain what happened. And these are all military observers, or like, for example, the head of your NASA based out of France, I think out of Paris, he was there too. We had a lot of people like that, and we shared stories. A fascinating story besides General DeBrouwer and the Belgian Way one, which I found fascinating, was the Iranian one with General Jafari. We seen General Jafari showed us nose cam footage of the crash, and it was just we were pretty much floored over. But you know what? We all stay in contact, even all these years later through Facebook and the internet. And but we all are like brothers in a way, because we all have these common experiences. And most of us are veterans of our own military service. Yeah. So, it's. I don't know if I answered your question or not. I got talking. Okay.
Just one thing about your book, like the cover says here, it shows the symbols that you've encountered on the.
This one here?
Yeah. There's the same copy.
Oh, hey, did it arrive in good shape?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Well, concerning these symbols,
yes.
A lot of people ask me if they are correct in shape. The reference in shape. Are they the same that you have seen on the craft?
Exactly. They're identical.
Exactly the same. Okay.
Yeah. It's the first time we put out a correct copy. We kept it we kept it so we could authenticate the ones that were going out throughout the whole 20-some years. But these here are exactly these symbols. And I'll tell you something else about these symbols. They're exactly like I wrote in the notebook. If you see, it has the third circle on it. And all the other ones that ever came out before, they don't have them.
Yeah.
But it was always in front of me. Anytime I showed the notebook with the drawing, it had the 3 circles in. Everybody ignored it. So, yeah, they're exactly right.
Why do you think they left out the symbols?
No, I mean, I'm talking about the public just looking at it. We know this much. We know that with the binary, and we know the glyphs there are everything is math related. Okay, so it's all mathematical. We got that much going. We're still researching the glyphs, by the way, but they're some type of mathematical information. We just haven't got it all figured out yet. Yeah. Hopefully, it's in the second book.
Yeah, and how's your point on the reference of the coordinates in the binary code that they refer to High Brazil, a legendary place like Atlantis?
Yes.
On this?
Well, that it's first of all, it's the only coordinate that is. There's 7 coordinates, actually only 6 places though. The High Brazil one off of Ireland. And that is repeated twice. It's at the beginning of the cipher for the code, and it's at the last one. So it's mentioned twice in there for some reason. We don't know why. And we have taken satellite imagery of that coordinate area, and between 60 and 75 feet below the surface of the ocean there, which is pretty shallow considering, there is an island. We got a picture of the island of it. So. And I think we might have put that. We might have put that in the book. I'm not sure if that picture's in there.
Okay, but the place is just for the people who are following this Skype. It's near Ireland. The coordinates.
It's off the west side of
Ireland. Yes.
Southwest. Yeah.
And then something that I want to add to this question is the binary codes. You had them. Translated by a programmer, Nick Sisk, I believe, and you got the following message, and correct me if I'm wrong, it should say exploration humanity, and then you have the coordinates, and then it's Conti for planetary advance. Is that
advanced?
Correct? Advanced. Is it advanced or advanced? Advanced. And Conti, is it continuous or Conti?
Continuous for planetary advance.
That was the complete code that was
built. It wasn't just Nick Sisk. I mean, we had it authenticated from 6 different sources. A professor down in Australia, one in North Carolina, one in Cambridge, England, Nick, Joe from Colorado. We had a lot of sources, and they all came up with the same decipher. So,
yeah. And how does it make you feel, the message? What does it mean for you?
Well, it's this is funny. 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, it's funny you bring this up. 2 weeks ago, I was at the 50th symposium, MUFON symposium in Irvine, California. And I knew I was going out there, and I'm friends with the executive director, producer for Ancient Aliens, Kim Shuren, and she also does Oak Island. I don't know if they have that show over there or not. And anyway, it's in the LA area. I get a hold of her on the phone and says, Kim, I'm going to be down there doing that conference in Irvine, which is right outside of LA. And I says, I'd like to meet you again. It's been like 7-8 years. And she's great. I just got back from a film shoot. She says, I'll come down Saturday. I'll see you. We'll have lunch. I says, great. So while we're having lunch, and it was really good to see her, by the way. No, because we did the film shoot in 2010 over there in the UK. We were together for 3 weeks. She brought her husband at the time over. And yeah, we've spent a lot of time together professionally. And one of the things that she brought up, because she had an advanced copy of the Rendlesham Enigma, I sent it to her. And she says, she says, I want to thank you for putting everything so accurately in there about me and about Prometheus Entertainment production company she works for.
Production company.
Yeah, and I says, well, I just said what happened, and she said, well, yeah. She says about how you thought that there would be no sense made of the ones and zeros, and then all of a sudden it is. And she called me up and went through the whole procedure, and she says, you were so accurate on it. I says, well, that's the reason. I says, remember 2 years ago I emailed you? I says, can you remember everything that actually happened? And we went back and forth together. She said, oh, yeah, that's right. I said, you helped me with my memory on that because I couldn't remember exactly what happened, how it came about with the finding out about the binary meant something.
Yeah.
And because she knows when I was on there, I said, there's no way that can mean anything. It's impossible. But the funny part about this, so we talked about that. So that was recent. And but the funny part about the thing with the binary is, I expected that to be just part of my insanity of losing my mind, from the trauma afterwards. And but the funny thing is, when it was deciphered, I sort of knew. I had the impression of what that stuff said. Maybe not the coordinates, but there was impressions or communications that were made. Yeah, and I said, oh yeah, that's familiar. And I said, it says that, and then she goes, yes. And I went, wow.
Could you go into that? In that, what you felt? What was the message?
What do you mean? What was?
We know that if people are contacted by extraterrestrials, they communicate through visualizations and emotions. So, and
I had those.
Yeah, you have them.
I had those. Yeah, I just wasn't really aware of what was going on. I mean, it was happening, but I wasn't really cognizant of exactly what was transpiring. But there was emotion. There was this technology of this brilliant white light that encompassed me. I used the term light. It wasn't light. That's me in my interpretation, because I have no words for the technology, but it was similar to that. And because I know it wasn't light, because I immediately, after taking my hand off the symbol, it was dark again, and I had all my night vision. And everybody knows if you have, say 100 flash bulbs go off. Remember flash bulbs? I don't know if you know what those are. If they go off, you would not be able to see for 30, 40 minutes out there. I mean, so the technology wasn't light like we know it. It was something that appeared to be light. But anyway, it's definitely, there's no doubt in my mind, it was a communication system, which I apparently activated. And it took a long time to come to terms with that. Right after the incident, I mean, about the ones and zeros, writing them down, I felt better. I got all the way through it, and then all of a sudden I couldn't see them no more in my mind's eye, and I felt great. I just figured I dodged a bullet. I didn't have to go to the base hospital and try to explain what just happened, because it would be a career ender. It just sounds insane, especially in 1980. Doctor, I don't know what to tell you. I had an encounter with a craft unknown origin the other day. I went home. I see ones and zeros. I wrote them all down. I feel better. They would go ahead and relieve me of duty and start separation notice to get me out of the service.
But this was the 80s, so the 80s were tough in that regard.
Well, yeah, it was a different time. And and I think that's some of the hard part for a lot of the people under 40 to realize, because first of all, We didn't have cell phones. I wish I would have had a cell phone with a camera. We didn't have that type of technology. We didn't know nothing about computers. I didn't see my first computer, I don't think, till '85.
It was the period.
I think it's a word
Very
processor.
expensive.
I don't even think it was a computer. I think it was a word processor or something, But yeah, we didn't. So I didn't know ones and zeros meant. I didn't actually find out what that ones and zeros meant until we're doing a film shoot out in Phoenix, Arizona for Ancient Aliens back in 2010, and I'm there with the other airman that was with me, John Burroughs, and Linda Moulton Howell was there.
Oh yeah.
And I was getting a film shoot, and in between, in that time, they actually had film in the camera instead of digital, and they were changing the film out. So I'm sitting in a chair while I was getting interviewed, and John asked me about a phone number, and I got my notebook, and I said, well, I don't know, I might have it in here. And I flipped back too far, back to where the binary was, and we know that is my insane, losing my mind stuff. I don't want anybody to see it. And they see it immediately, and then Linda Moulton Howell, she says, wait, what is that? And I said, oh, I figured, well, it's up now. I might as well tell them. I said, well, after the incident, I couldn't sleep and all this stuff, and this is what I ended up writing down. And Linda says, that's binary code. And when she said that, I went, binary code? And she says, yeah. And I remember I did a book with her back in '95 or something like that. And I had given her my hypnosis tapes to transcribe, like 4 hours worth. And it's a part of that one in the book, and it says, I can see binary code. And I have no idea what it was until that point in time. And if it wasn't for Linda Moulton Howell and John Burroughs, the binary still wouldn't be out.
Okay.
I would have still kept it. Yeah, and the first book wouldn't have been written, and this one probably wouldn't have been written. I mean, yeah.
So Jim, what made you do the hypnosis sessions? What triggered you to do them?
Well, I retired in '93, and so I'm working as a vice president for a security investigation a security investigation firm, and a tough job, 60, 70 hours a week. But I couldn't sleep at night, and I was getting less and less sleep. I kept waking up and with this stuff, and I just wasn't sleeping. It got to the point where I was only getting 2 hours sleep a night. And I'll tell you what, you cannot go very long only having 2 hours sleep a night. It's crazy. Yeah. So I went to my medical doctor, and she says, well, I don't know what really to do. She says, all I can do is maybe refer you to a psychiatrist, and maybe they can work through whatever this is keeping you where you can't sleep. I said, okay, I'm anything. And so I get referred to the psychiatrist, a nice lady, and so she was going to help me with the sleep disorder. And I was with her about a month, and she said, well, we can do medications. And I said, I don't want to do medications. I want to fix this without medication. And she said, well, how about it if we do a hypnosis session on it? And she says, then we can find out what in your past has caused this, because that's probably what's going on. She says, maybe as a child, maybe some kind of abuse. She says, all kinds of stuff could be the cause. I said, okay. So we sit down, we do the first one, and it's amazing hypnosis. I don't know if you ever had it done.
No.
She set it up where I don't remember the hypnosis, what happened or nothing. I just feel really good when it's done. And so I come out of it. It feels like I had a good 25 hours sleep. It was really great. And I was really smiling about it. And I look at the doctor, and she's got her jaw on the table. I said, what's the matter? She says, we're going to have another session. She says, we're going to have to talk about Woodbridge. I went, oh, no.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And that's how it came about.
Something really happened there. Between the 26th and 28th December, I think it was December, 1980?
26th of December, yeah.
So could you give us some insight, your perspective of what happened to you. So you were sitting in the base, and I think alarms went off or something.
Okay, it was the Christmas schedule, which means absolutely nothing. It didn't make no difference. Okay.
Jingle bells.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't. It works. And but there was no maintenance working. They were not fixing aircraft, and we had limited manning. And anyway, I went to work. I was flight sergeant, flight chief for that night for Woodbridge. Law enforcement was a separate entity. They worked 8-hour shifts. We were working 12s that time. And so we get to work. I take my guys over, and we only had guys because they didn't allow women in the career field at the time. Sorry, folks. Different time.
That's the way it was.
Yeah, that's the way it was. They do now. They have them in now. And so I took my guys over and posted. We had a Metro. I don't know if you know what a Metro is. A big truck that's closed in and with seats. Yeah. And I took them over, and we posted everybody at the restricted areas, and that we did that kind of stuff. And I did my lighting check. That was part of my supervisor duties, and I had that completed. And I get a call from Sergeant McCulley, who was Security 6, the security response team for the base. And he said, hey, let's do chow. And I said, okay. So I meet him at the chow hall. It's 12 o'clock at night, midnight.
Midnight?
And yes. And yeah, that's another thing is about all the times are correct. None of the stuff that's ever been put out is correct.
Okay.
Okay. So it was midnight. I just get there. I mean, I just get a cup of coffee poured. And McCulley says, Jim, do you hear the call CSC? I said, no, I didn't hear it. But I put the coffee down, and so I went over to we had a direct line that went right to the control center. And I picked it up, and I said, what's going on? And it was Sergeant Coffee, and he says, we got a situation out at the East Gate. He said, with the 2 police units, we want you to respond, go code 2, lights only. And I said, what's going on? He says, they'll brief you when you get there. Okay. So it takes 4 minutes at 45 miles an hour. We figured that out.
Sorry, Jim. Did you know that something was wrong then?
No, there was a situation, but I knew that it wasn't hostile because everyone let me just go to a place not knowing if there's hostilities going on or if they were getting fire or something like that.
It's just a check.
But like there was they said there was a situation. So there was some type of situation out there. I didn't know what, but it wasn't like life threatening or something like that. They would have told me that. I guarantee you they would have said that. And so I get to the East Gate area, the back of the base, and I meet Sergeant Steffens. He's the senior patrolman there. He's a staff sergeant too. And I said, what's going on, Bud? And it's not that I'm being friendly with him. Bud is actually his name, okay, his first name. Yeah. And he points over to Rendlesham Forest area. And I see all these multiple color lights in the tree line. At that time, about 150 yards of the forest was cut back, okay, way back. The Forestry Service has cut it way back, so it was quite a distance. Maybe 200 yards where I was looking at. And I could see these multiple color lights. And at that time, I'd probably been to 20, 21, 22, 23 aircraft crashes, seeing them at various stages of, wreckage. Some were on fire at the time. And this here did not appear exactly to be like titanium and fuel burning, but it was the only thing I could sort of figure out, trying to rationalize it. I said, well, Bud, did you see it crash? He says, it didn't crash. He said, it landed. I says, no way it can land. I says, the trees are only 5-6 feet apart. There's nothing to land in that forest.
Exactly. I've been there, so I checked that out.
Yeah. Okay, so you know exactly. They plant all the time the same way. So you understand.
Now the forest is close to East Gate. It's just
It's all the way up there. Yeah. Once they get a certain height, they'll cut them down again.
Okay.
So, yeah, they keep restocking. I don't know what they use the wood for. Who knows? But where was I at? I was talking about.
Well, you saw the lights and you had to check them.
Yeah, and I kept badgering Bud because he didn't answer the way I wanted him to answer. I said, "Well, did you hear it crash? Do you see it crash?" "It didn't crash," he said. "It landed." I says, "No way." He said, and then the other airman said, "Well, maybe it's a chopper." And I said, "No, a chopper can't land it. No, whatever's out there is probably crashed." And so I go to the east gate, which is 20 feet away. I walk to it. But they have a direct line because there's no way for ComSec, communication security, am I going to go over the radio and start talking about aircraft crashes. So I get the direct line to CSE. Sergeant Coffey answers. And you got to imagine, when I picked that line up and I called them, there's like 5 people on the line at once. Sergeant Coffey, the senior controller, Sergeant Dillard, the comm plotter, Lieutenant Moran, the shift commander, Sergeant Chandler, the flight sergeant. I mean, that's all these people out there. And so when I'm talking, they're all going to do action, okay? Yeah. And so I said, it appears to be an aircraft crash. And because that's all I could come up with. And it was about maybe 30, 40 seconds later, maybe a minute later, maybe 2 minutes. I'm not sure while I was talking. Sergeant Coffey comes back on. He says, "Well, I was just on line with Eastern Radar and Bentwaters Radar and London Radar. And they all confirmed they lost contact with a bogey 15 minutes ago over Woodbridge Base." Oh, so what we had then is actually confirmation of aircraft downing, and at least a possibility of it, but at least there's an emergency situation. Under the Status of Forces Agreement, for us to deploy off in British land, we have to have an emergency involving resources.
So you couldn't leave. You couldn't go into the forest without it.
No, we had to have an emergency. Yeah. And tell you what, Lieutenant Moran can't make the decision to deploy. What he did is got a hold of the wing command post. They called Colonel Conrad, and it's explained in the book, Colonel Conrad, the base commander, and he gave approval for us to deploy off base. That's the only way this can happen. I mean,
was he out of line to do that?
No, he was going by what was reported.
Yeah.
Possible aircraft downing. It's right off the base. They lost contact. Everything seemed okay. Everything was, fit the protocols.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and then at that point you were able to leave the...
I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem, no problem. So at that point you were able to leave at East Gate.
Yes, I was told by Sergeant Chandler to assemble the team. I didn't get the team I wanted. If I had my... I was the ranking security guy.
Yeah.
Bud Steffens was the ranking law enforcement guy, but I wanted him along with me. And I also wanted Sergeant McCulley, the security response team leader. I wanted him with me.
And why is that? Why didn't you?
Well, because it could possibly be a ruse. Maybe it was a way to go ahead and take the key elements of our base and distract us while they did something else. It was maybe an attack somewhere else on the base. So I couldn't take the other people with me, so they gave me 2 airmen. They gave me a brand new airman that night who was a security airman, but trust me, all the security airmen, they go through tech school and all that, they're trained. They know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing, but they'll do what they're told. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. And then the airman, the law enforcement guy, he was no help at all. But he went with me. So in the Jeep, in the back of it, I have a crash kit. We have them already pre-assembled. They got plotting maps, binoculars, camera. I mean, all these things that you might want to need to set up the enter control point and make it operational for the response. And so we all went off base. And since you've been out there, you know how the earthen berms are, where the plantings are. We went through about 150 yards of that, and finally got maybe within 50 yards of the base or the forest perimeter at the edge of the forest.
Yeah.
We couldn't go any farther. I actually thought I was going to tip it over, but the Jeep. But we got to that point, and I said, "Well, this would be a good place for the entry control point." I plotted the coordinates for that site, for that area, and it's done in a really amazing way. It's done like you have alphabetical letters on one side of the map, and you got numbers at top, and you get Alpha 6, Delta 4. It's something. It's really simple, and it is. And so that's where I set the entry control point, and I had to have someone that was knowledgeable for the response and able to. We only had 2 radios. I had my radio, and then Erwin Kabanzak had a radio. So we only had 2 radios out there, so I gave one. He had the radio. I felt comfortable with him, and I says, I'm going to have to start doing relays because we're starting to break up the communications with the control center, which is impossible. It's impossible because we have repeater systems all over the twin bases. There's no way you can have a dead spot, and but we did. We're having
at that point. Well, you thought this is going in a direction that we are on unknown territory here because we don't have communication with the tower.
No, I just thought it was odd. There's something going on. One of the thoughts I had about it is with the communication, and it wasn't really like bizarre. One of the thoughts I thought is maybe the aircraft had an ECM pod on it, electronic countermeasures. Electronic countermeasures. It's a little device that goes underneath the wing of a plane that can fry every stereo and TV for like 20 miles. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe that was involved in the crash. Maybe that's why we're having the difficulty. But anyway, I said, work as a relay. So when I tell you some relay to Sergeant Chandler is on his way to the East Gate, the flight chief from Bentwaters, and you can relay to him what's going on. And so that's how it was set up. I find out later. I don't want to get ahead. Do you want me to go through the rest of the story?
Yeah, please.
And so we proceed, and as I get closer and closer and closer, I can see these physical lights, different colored lights, but it's becoming more white, bright light. And I take the camera. I have the camera with me. It's the old type of Canon camera with I think 36 actual film in it, and I shot all the film I could going up to it because I knew at that point it wasn't. I don't think it was an aircraft crash. Okay, there's something else, and so I shot the film. I get to the perimeter, the edge of the forest, and then I'm starting to feel a physical effect, like on my skin, my hair, my clothing. It felt like static electricity, and
like electromagnetism, like you have a wave of electric magnetism on you.
Well, it felt like some kind of static electricity. Okay, you know how it make your
hair stands up.
Right, and so it was constant. And as I got to the close to it, all I'm seeing now over the berm is nothing but white light. I'm finding that it was hard for me to walk, meaning that inside this area, directly around this center of light, this 15 feet or so around it, it was like walking waist deep through a pool of water. That's how labored the movement seemed. The closer I got to it, it started easing up these physical things. The other oddity, amongst other things, was there was no sound. The forest was just void of sound. I mean, I couldn't even hear my footsteps on the forest floor. And you know how that forest is. It's all crunchy. I mean, you should be able to hear it from dead debris. Yeah. Back to my right was Aaron Burroughs 25 feet away. He, at that point, was just standing there motionless outside of this, what I call the sphere of influence. That's the actual 10, 15 feet around this light. The light pulsated up hard, bright, and I got down. I hit the dirt and got in a prone position. Thought it was going to explode. I thought that's what was going on. But all it was the light, and then the light started dissipating back down again, getting less and less bright. So I got up, and so now I'm so curious. It's crazy. So I terminate the security response option, which is for aircraft downing, aircraft crash, because it's not that. Yeah. And so I implement a security, and I can't hear the control center, but I'm still calling in on my radio.
You felt isolated at that point.
I felt isolated, sure. But I'm sure I was hoping that the control center could hear my transmissions or Cabansac one. Just because I wasn't receiving didn't mean they couldn't hear me. And so I was constantly, talking on the radio. And I decided that this could be a threat because it's unknown at this point, and it felt like that. And so I implemented the security response option called a helping hand. Don't laugh at these terms. A helping hand is a security response option that is of a possible hostile event involving or that could jeopardize the operations of the base and the priority A, B, and C resources on it.
So at this point, it's serious.
At this, it's a possible hostile threat. That's what I'm thinking, because it's not an aircraft crash.
Yeah.
So as I come over the berm, like I said, all the physical effects stopped. But the interesting point was I could see outside of this wall of light that's still around where I'm in, and I would say the only thing I could come up with is that it seemed like everything was out of sync around in this sphere. And point taken, I find out later, my watch, which was an electronic watch at the time, not this one, but it stopped for 45 minutes. So whatever was there stopped it. The electrical field, I don't know. It stopped. It interfered with the watch. But then the light started dissipating down, and I started seeing a structured craft then, but I seen these globular patterns of light running through the fabric of the skin of the craft. And they were finally starting to slow down a little bit. And then finally they just dissipated. They were like disappeared. And the only light that was shown was underneath the craft itself, not as bright, very dim, but it was there. Yeah. And all I could see then was a silhouette of a black craft.
Can I cut in for a moment, Jim?
You can cut in. You can ask another question.
So you saw the craft, and they have a replica at Rendlesham now. The UFO.
I actually worked on that with them.
Yeah. So is it the same shape, the craft?
No, it's similar, but no, they couldn't do it. They said because they had to weld it and they had a hard time. But they did go ahead and put accurately the symbols on it. Those are accurate.
Yeah.
But the size would be about right. Yes.
Yeah. What I'm guessing, Jim, is that the ship, the replica, is not in the right place where you have encountered it.
No.
I'm right. I knew it.
It's not. It is. It's there because it's just like the trail is not real. Yeah. That's not the route we took. That just works for the forestry department.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. That's how they make their money, and that's fine. They use that for good causes, I'm sure. But no, it's not in the right area. But in the book, we give you the exact coordinates where it's at, the landing site.
Well, I'm going back to Rendlesham at one point, maybe next year.
And then take a GPS with you, and you can go right to it.
Yeah, I will take the book with me, and I will go to the exact coordinates then. And so let me get back to the ship. So you saw the ship, and Burroughs, he was with you at that point?
No, he was never with me. He was like 25 feet behind me, and he was motionless. I don't know if he was scared to death. I don't know what. I don't know if, because I was inside that span of the span of influence there, that maybe I'll go ahead and theorize.
Okay.
This part. I actually believe that whole time the effect around the ship was not the same as outside of it. Okay, it was different. I think outside that sphere of influence, there was probably normal time, normal observation. And to Burroughs, he probably didn't see one second go by. It was all instantaneous. Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
He was nailed to the ground.
Huh?
He was nailed to the ground at that point.
No, he's just standing. He was standing up straight, just not moving.
Yeah. And you could reach the ship. You could proceed and go to the craft.
Well, yeah, out of film. So the only thing I can do is, I don't know if I'm going to survive this, because he looks like he's a casualty. I don't know, and I didn't know. I mean, I wasn't concentrating. I didn't care about him. I cared about what was in front of me and whether this was a threat to the base. That's what I cared about. And I don't want you to make it sound bad. I didn't care about him.
No, it's understandable.
I just wrote him off because of the problem at hand in front of me.
You need to make an estimation at that point.
That's right. That's right. Correct. And so I started recording. I said, well, I'm not going to survive this either. So I'm going to write down as much information as I can. So whoever gets this information, finds this notebook at the command level, can make decisions on it. Okay. Because at least I've done my job.
Yeah.
And so I don't have nothing out there to measure it. So I have to use things like I pace it off. My stride's about 3 feet. It took 3 of them. That's 9 feet. That's how long it was on each side. It was hovering over the ground, it looked like. I couldn't figure that out, so I went over to it. I looked underneath, and there was no landing gear, but I went and pushed it, and I couldn't push it. It wouldn't move. If you had an automobile out there and you walk up to it and you push it, it's going to move. A little bit, something, whatever. This did not. So somehow this technology, this light, acted as landing gear or something, because it did leave impressions. But I couldn't understand that. It's technology I don't understand. I started then to look for things that all aircraft need to fly. Simple things. Intake, exhaust, flaps, ailerons. I mean, I'm looking for all the things that let planes fly. All planes have them. Then I also looked for like a crew compartment. I looked for windows. The whole craft was smooth to touch, with the appearance of black glass, but don't take that wrong. It was metal of some kind. And I'm doing my walk around. I'm doing a 360 walk around it, and trying to get as much information I can. And as I come up on the one side of it, I see there's some type of writing on it, and I actually felt relieved to see that, Bart. This is great.
Okay.
Maybe it has a sickle and hammer on it, or maybe it has, USAF experimental, NASA, anything. It would have been a relief to see on it. And then I got closer to it, and there were those glyphs. There wasn't writing like I was looking for at all, or a numbering system, or nothing like that.
Were you thinking on this is something extraterrestrial at that point?
No, I never ever thought that.
You never thought that?
I thought it was unidentified. Okay. I didn't make no conclusions because I think I couldn't afford to make a conclusion based on personal beliefs.
Yeah.
I tell you, before walking that forest, I never believed in any of that UFO stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy stuff. You know.
But it was a game changer for you afterwards.
Oh yeah, and when I left, believe me, I thought differently. Yeah, and
Do you think that the extraterrestrials are observing us?
I don't think it's extraterrestrial.
You don't think it's extraterrestrial?
Mm.
Okay. So it's something earthbound?
I think that well, definitely it's not ours. It's not in Jane's book of aircraft. I mean, I know that much. I worked at Offutt Air Force Base before I got there, and they had prototypes of aircraft 50 years in the future. Nothing even close to this. So the technology today can't be replicated. So you know, I knew it wasn't in our inventory, and we had the best inventory in the world at that time.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, the Soviets weren't very technical at all. Chinese were way behind us. The different times.
Yeah.
Different times. Yeah. No, I never thought that. But I knew whatever this was. We probably. Well, I never. I don't know. I had what we call a WTF moment. I don't know if you know what that is.
Oh, WTF. Doubt? Something with doubt in it?
No, it's when you go, what the?
What the? Okay. What the?
Like, I'm trying to keep this so G-rated for you.
Yeah, it's great. You're doing great, Jim. Okay, but the technical guys are waving at me, so we have to proceed and make one more question. Do we have time for one more question? Is that okay for you, Jim?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess get talking and
no problem. But
so easy to talk to, Bart.
Yeah. So the one question is, like, you know that we study the files whenever we can find them, the dossiers about extraterrestrials and craft of unknown origin. We study the military files, the intelligence files, and we connect this with group activities where we do skywatch procedures with equipment. And most of the stuff that we use is actually military equipment, like night vision, walkie-talkies, tri-field meters.
Right.
So what do you think about these procedures that we connect the files and study the files, and then we go on the field and we make contact with something? Do you think that is something that will be good for the world in the future?
I think the phenomenon needs all the research it can possibly get. My beliefs, actually, and I'll go back right to it that you asked earlier. I think what it was is I think this is an interdimensional type craft, based on the feelings around it. Another study that has been done, and I'm not privileged to talk about his work, but I'll just give you an overlay, and you might find this fascinating. There is a connection, according to this fellow I know, or good source, between the vortex of a crop circle, okay, and what happens underneath triangular craft. The same vortex is created.
Okay.
Whatever the power system is, it creates it. So somehow this, and not all crop circles, some are just people out there with boards, but I mean, I'm talking about the legit ones with the vortexes and that. Somehow this technology is related with these interdimensional beings, these people. And the only reason I say it's us from the future, because that's the communication I got. Do I know that for a fact? No, it could be anything. I mean, as far as I know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just because you had communication with somebody, you don't believe everything you hear, do you? I don't.
No.
I don't know.
Of course.
I know. I'm sort of a facts guy. I like to have proof. Yeah.
That's actually what our group is doing also. We like to stick to facts.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by your group, and so I tell you what, I might be coming over there to do a conference at Woodbridge next June. Might, and if I do, I would love to have your group there. Maybe we can go back out there, and you can.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And when would you visit Woodbridge?
Well, we're negotiating it right now about going. It looks like, and I'll tell you, I don't like going over there in the winter, but it would probably be more like June or July in that time frame.
Well, that's perfect because normally we travel to Wiltshire at that point to investigate crop circles, and we could make a detour.
Well, I tell you what you do if you have a planned date already for Wiltshire, if you have a planned date, let me know what those dates are. Just message me, and that way I'll try to arrange the Woodbridge conference somehow around that. Who knows? It doesn't hurt to try, does it?
It would be fascinating. So, Jim, how much time do we have for you at this point? Can you handle one or two more questions, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, is that okay for you, Jan? Okay, then we. When you touched the craft, Jim, did you feel a sensation, a vibration, or anything? When you put your hand on the triangle?
You broke up on.
Oh, I broke up. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. When you touched the craft, did you feel a sensation of some sorts, like a vibration?
No, it's all visual.
All visual.
The only thing, but touching the craft itself, the craft was warm to touch. The air temperature was at 32 degrees. I estimate it was 55 degrees, maybe. I turned out later from Monroe Neville, Sergeant Neville's, the only area that had radioactivity was right at the landing site, right there underneath it. And he recorded that, and he's in the book too, by the way. He goes in a lot of detail about it. But that was the only place where radiation was. But unfortunately, he says that's probably why the craft was warm. So, but I'm okay. I'm healthy. So.
Yeah. No problem there. So this will be a question that maybe you don't want to answer. I don't know, but we will respect it. But you know the story about Larry Warren? The whole commotion around him. What is your take on that story? Do you think he's talking out of his A? Or is it legit?
No, he wasn't working on my night or with Colonel Hall. He never worked. That's a hoax. He hoaxed his involvement. We've said that ever since when Hall went public in '93 with me, '94. The matter of fact, we took so much heat when we told people he wasn't involved. Everybody just jumped on us. Yeah. But it's true. I mean, I knew exactly who was working. Halt knew who was working. I mean, matter of fact, he wasn't even armed. He went on investigations almost immediately when he got to the base in December. And I don't want to get too much into his private stuff, but. He wasn't armed. He worked law enforcement gates, and then other things. Yeah. While he was waiting discharge. But it's a sad situation. I mean, his co-author Peter Robbins has now pulled the book with the publisher, left at Eastgate because they touted it was a first-hand response. It's not true. I feel sorry for Peter Robbins on it. I mean, he was took to the cleaners with it by Larry. It's a shame.
Okay.
Whatever you do, don't go see that movie.
Okay, thank you.
Don't go see that. That's a waste of money.
So as you know, we are doing a lot of research in the field. We do skywatch procedures in Wiltshire, in crop circles. And there was one point, and it was in 2015, when we were at night, we were operating, and we have a lot of visits by military choppers, like Apache choppers.
Right.
It's not only for us, but they check up what we're doing. We know that. Mm-hmm. It's normal because we are working near bases.
Right.
We have equipment like radar detection, so they can detect us. And at one point, at that night, and I'm dying to ask you this question, we saw a black triangle flying like 100 meters above us. It was coming straight at us. It was like a stealth fighter, but I know all the stealth fighters, all the known stealth fighters I have studied. So it's something I haven't seen before. It's a black triangle, and it made a deep roar at the back, but it glided above us. And some of our people thought that the military have secret planes, and that they use the crop circle as marking points for exercise. Do you think that is possible, that they use that?
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. I know that it wouldn't be a United States aircraft in the United States, because we don't take test aircraft overseas like that. It would have to be a British or something like that.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, was it like a 117? Is that the size of 117 or something like that, or was it huge?
It was really huge, because if it was above us, we couldn't see the stars. So it was...
I tell you what, you're not the first people I talked to. I've got 3 really bona fide incidents that people have told me about with their experience with exactly what you're saying, and they happened at various points, thousands of miles apart. So I don't know. There's something to it. I tell you what I would want you to do. If you get any more information, or especially with the crop circles at the actual vortex point, that one point when everything is where the center of it is, I want you to take a picture of that as close as you can get for me.
Yeah, I'll have the pictures.
I will share stuff that I have with you, your group, okay?
I will send the pictures to you. And additional to the question is, I took my camera. I said to the group, all lights out. I took the camera and was shooting away, and all the pictures were scrambled. Is that something that the military can do, of the Air Force? Can they block?
Do you have digital?
It was digital.
Yes, they can do that.
Okay.
They could do that. They could do that back in 1980.
Oh, God. That far back. Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. And would they do that? If it's a secret plane, they would do it. They would block our ability to take pictures.
Yes, anything's possible. It sounds like a prudent measure for them to do that. But that's why I was saying about the radio breakdown with the ECM pod, electronic countermeasures. We've had that stuff back then. They can just fry electronic systems, or scramble them. We can do all that. We could have done that back then, but it depends on how much powered up they are or whatever. But I'll tell you what, I would think confidence is pretty reasonable on that could be. I don't know. I think you might be on the right direction with that thought. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you? I don't know if you can answer this, but the military takes quite some interest in our procedures in the UK, if we are working there. And do you know why that is? Why exactly would they? It's not really following us, but we feel that they are close to us at some point.
Yeah, it's if it's by any type of basis, you got the curiosity up. If you got equipment though, and you're giving off a signature with, they're gonna investigate it. I mean, that's not out of the ordinary. I tell you what, we used to do the same thing to plane spotters. They kept saying there were, clubs, tail numbers. We would still. That's what the cameras are for. We had. We take pictures of the people taking pictures of us.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
How bizarre is that? Yeah. So I think you got very good reasoning about all this. I think those are all possibilities that you're coming up with, and they sound somewhat solid.
Yeah. And then I think we are coming to the end of the interview, Jim.
Okay.
So I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Yes. When the events that you encountered in 1980, afterwards, did you have an investigation on your part from inside the military or the USAF that they asked you what happened and you can't say this or do that? Because there are rumors about you being visited by people in black and stuff that tried to control your mind and stuff.
Once they started the investigation within 72 hours after the incident. Yeah, I mean there was I don't know, I was questioned quite a bit. Yeah, they wanted to know some things. In the book, the Enigma book, we talk about the mind block, which they tried to put in about actually receiving the code to stop it. Yeah. That's in there. Yeah, they did take steps like that. And you know what? They did do, there's other incidents throughout my Air Force career that are talked about in that book about what things that happened. And believe me, I did call Colonel Highbush on most of those when that stuff happened. So, and for example, the Unsolved Mysteries with Colonel Halt and John Burroughs. That's one of the first shows that was done. I get it's in the book. It describes, I get a call from my sister, and she's telling me about it was on TV. They mentioned my name. I says, what is it, Rendlesham? She goes, about Bentwaters and a triangular craft. Oh my God. And so she sends me a copy, and it was videotape back then, yeah. And anyway, I find out that the show's going to be shown on AFN, Armed Forces Network, over in Europe. So I get a hold of my contact, and I says, well, I don't want the show being shown over here because it's going to create a lot of questions because they use my name in it. And yeah, and that's when they're talking about triangular craft. All that stuff's from Burroughs. And so anyway, the OSI tells me not to worry about it. It's taken care of, and sure enough, the show comes on like it was supposed to be on September, whatever day it was, at 8 o'clock, I think it was. And at 8 o'clock exactly, the network went off the air for 1 hour. The show never aired.
Oh.
So yeah, they stopped it. So things like that were always coming up through the career. But the whole thing is, I couldn't talk about it because I thought it was all top secret.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the story about you being brought down in a base and then was interviewed by people in black, is that true?
It's in my hypnosis that way, yes.
Okay.
I don't have conscious memory of it, but it's in all the hypnosis sessions, yeah. Pretty bizarre stuff. Matter of fact, I never watched the 4.5 hours of, those were actually my psychiatrist's notes, the filming. She gave them to me years ago, and I never watched. I attempted to watch them like 100 times. I could never, too emotional. And for this book, last year, Gary Osborne took the 4.5 hours, transcribed them, and God bless him, through Skype calls, he read the whole 4.5 hours to me, and that's how I learned about what was in the hypnosis.
Okay. So, Jim, you're doing an amazing job, really, for the ongoing investigation. This is really top work you're doing. And there are a lot of people that think that way. So I just wanted to say this for the record. Really, I think in Europe, lots of people will buy your book. They will be very interested because there is a lot of things are written about your story. But as we all know, most of the things are not true or are a bit on the shady side, let's say.
I start my conferences out like this. I always do it. I go, show of hands of everybody that knows about the Rendlesham Forest incident. Everybody raises their hands. Obviously, they're there to see me. And I said, okay, everything you know about it is half wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I tell them. And then, I'm not dissing witnesses. I'm just saying documentaries, they're in for it to make money, and change things. They do whatever they want, and then you have opportunists out there too. People that are, for some reason, want to sensationalize a sensational event. I don't understand that one at all. It's sensational by itself. I don't understand that. Why would you want to try to embellish it? You know?
Yeah. But now with your finally your terrific work here.
Well, Gary Osborne deserves a lot of credit too. He did all the notes, all the notes sections. It took him forever. Good research. I want to. The Rendlesham Enigma. I feel so satisfied that the truth is finally out about Rendlesham.
It makes me emotional, Jim. This makes me actually emotional because I know what you've been through. And a lot of people know.
It's not good. It's not good. You know what? I had a person just ask me the other day about Rendlesham, and she says, how do you know so much about it? How do you recall that? I says, because this week, Rendlesham was 2 days ago for me. I says, it happens all the time. And she goes, oh, I don't know about that. She said, that don't even sound good. I said, it's not. I said, I'm getting so used to it after 39 years. It is 39 years. And this year, it'll be the 40th anniversary in December.
So I think, Jim, we need to meet. We need to make an appointment in Rendlesham.
Yeah.
So let me get back to you on this. And we will do terrific things.
Yeah, and it'd be nice. You have your group and that we can meet there, and I could make sure that you know exactly where everything is.
Yeah. Okay. Can we shoot the whole adventure there? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Anything that records stuff for history is fine with me.
That's terrific. That's great. So, Jim, I wanted to thank you for this really amazing interview. And that you took the time.
It's been fun. Thank you. The pleasure's been mine, believe me.
Oh, this is great. Thank you. So you will hear from us. We will send pictures of the crop circles. We will make contact with you for the Woodbridge endeavor that's coming up. So, okay, I will sign off here.
All the best.
And I want to say a very good evening.
Yes, have a good night, and
night.
And hopefully don't dream about Rendlesham.
No, I won't. Okay. Okay. So thank you, Jim.
All right.
Bye, Jim.
All the best.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. God bless.